Hello, Dreadwood. Oh, how good it is to be here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Chanel number 5. Yes, just like the perfume. Except, darlings, I'm much more expensive than that. My life of crime has been one for the checkbooks, I must say, although I do very much hate to boast. Oh, who am I kidding? I've had quite the career. Perhaps, my loves, I should start from the beginning. I was not always Chanel. No, sometimes I was a young woman named Marge. However, Marge was absolutely dreadful to beat. Marge worked under the seamstress Belle Simmons and sewed all sorts of expensive garments for expensive women. I worked endlessly under the dreadful Belle Simmons. The woman was old and ugly. She would slap my hands with a ruler if I so much as messed up a stitch. I still have the scars to prove it. They're long and white, and sometimes if I look at them for too long, my vision goes red and I start to shake. You may have heard of the store I worked for. It was the boutique Gilded Rose. Gilded Rose was located downtown in a bougie white-gray marble building. The whole place was accented in princess pink, and girls from all over the hillside came to try on the most lavish dresses. When I was Marge, I could never afford those types of dresses. I could hardly afford my blue jeans. That's actually why I took the job there. A friend of mine told me if you apprentice under a seamstress, then not only would you be rich, but you could also make your own fabulous clothing. I mean, how could I possibly resist? Belle happened to be hiring, and I happened to be the perfect woman for the job. Imagine that. So I began to work under Belle, and Belle was quite talented with a sewing machine, but she was also positively rude. Seriously, she constantly hit at me or called me ugly. Sometimes she'd rip up designs in front of me after I'd spent hours on them. I had never had a bad thought in my life until I met Belle. Daughters of gang leaders were who we usually served, so the boutique was opened at night. One night, the most beautiful woman walked in. She had bright hair and the most wild blue eyes. Claire Bluebell was her name. She was the daughter of Delilah Bluebell, the woman who owned the gun shop on 17th Street. The Bluebells had money, a lot of it. They brought each of their daughters in once a week to pick out a new dress for their latest event. They were practically Dreadwood royalty. Belle always kept me dressed in rags with my hair slicked back. I wasn't allowed to take anything home ever unless I could pay for it. I could never pay for my designs, and yet Belle would hardly keep them out on the floor. That night, for some reason, she let me pull out one of my designs that was buried under her heaps of couture and put it out on a rack. Then Claire came in with her siblings, but Claire wasn't like her siblings. Claire was timid. She hardly even said a word, even after everything. She wasn't a woman of many words. She would poke around the shop while Madame Bluebell chatted away with Belle. I was to stand there quietly, but I couldn't keep my eyes off Claire. She was much different than our usual clients. Our usual clients were loud and walked in flourishes, while Claire just skirted around the room. To think of it, I could hardly ever hear her breathing. She pulled a dress off the rack, and of all the dresses, it was mine. My very own design. It was a light blue satin number. It had spaghetti straps and was trimmed with white lace. Belle told me it looked more like a nightgown than a dress. She told me it was simple. It was to Grandma. Claire brought the dress to her mother. Madame Bluebell looked at the dress up and down and raised an eyebrow. Belle saw the look and stepped in to say, "Not that one. I didn't make that one." My blood boiled and my face heated as the women turned their attention to me. I wanted to cry. Madame Bluebell gave me the most sickening look, and Belle smirked at me. She knew what she was doing. That crazy old hat knew exactly what she was doing. But then I saw Claire. She was confused, but she wasn't looking at me like they were. "Mama, I love it," she whispered. Well, I thought it was a whisper. Turns out that's just her normal speaking voice. Madame Bluebell sneered and handed my dress to Belle. "Well, I do not. Choose another. Now, we must hurry." Then she turned to Belle and continued their conversation. My dress was discarded in the roaring flames of the fireplace. The lace shriveled up into wrinkled gray leaves before disintegrating into the fire as the satin melted into non-existence. I could have cried. I could have thrown up. Instead, I just stared. I didn't even notice how Claire didn't take her eyes off me. I didn't say another word all night as Belle chastised me. If I would have attempted to speak, then their tears would have fallen and she would have hit my hands again. I think she was trying to break my hands so that I could never sew again. I never got the chance to ask. That night I went home and packed a backpack full of essentials, and then I got a knife from the kitchen. Belle slept at the shop. I also knew that as soon as I slit her throat that the police would be after me, so I had to be quick. I had to be quiet. I showed up at the darkened storefront. Fake LED candles flickered in the windows, and I gripped my kitchen knife hard. Can you believe that? A kitchen knife? Wow, I was such an amateur back then. Anyways, I crept into the shop with the key I was given. A good piece of advice, darlings. Never give anyone in this town a key to anything you own, especially if you still live there. Belle was a complete idiot. I showed her that in the end. I'll spare you the gory details. Her death was easy. I took the knife and plunged it into her heart instead of slitting her throat. It seemed easier. She didn't move. Didn't make a sound. And that's when I realized she was already dead long before I got there. I stumbled back in shock, but then I heard noise coming from the other room. I looked up, and standing there was Claire Bluebell with a vial of poison in her hand. We stared at each other, and then something came over me. I crossed the room, and I grabbed her face, and I kissed her. Then it was just Claire and me against the world. We took up new identities. I was now and forever Chanel No. 5, and she was the Gucci memoir. Nothing could stop us. Well, that's what we thought anyways. That was true for a long time, yes. Then we robbed a bank together. It was a fun date night plan, and it should have been easy, but the problem was they were expecting us. Claire and I ran from the bank as soon as the banker pulled a gun, and we hopped in our getaway car. We barely made it 2 miles down the road. Then there was a gunfight. I was trying my best to hold them off, just for a second, but Claire was hit. And the car went off the road, and then they pulled me out of the car. I saw the woman that shot Claire. She was wearing all black with a red bandana over her face. Her hair was black and pulled up into pigtails. She looked like a child. I later found out she wasn't with the police. She had apparently been dead for 20 years. I didn't stay in jail long. I escaped, as we all do, but I came straight here. Be careful of what is out there, Dreadwood. I understand nothing is ever right here, but this is different.
Dreadwood Press Radio is a podcast written by Arthur Edwards and produced by Dreadwood Productions. In today's episode, Chanel No. 5 is performed by Shelby Kay Stout. Today's musical guest is cxxxb. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can find us online on Instagram at Dreadwood Press Radio, Twitter at Radio Dreadwood, or you can support us on Patreon to keep the podcast going. We also have a website, Deepwood Productions. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can send us an email at deepwoodprod@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and stay safe out there. Until next time. Dying is bad.
passion, I see the refraction, light bouncing off of glittering hills. Thrill is the cheapest when you see my creases, folding on out for the personal draw. Brought on by lives they've wasted the time. Won't make sense of their pitiless crimes. Jesus Christ, yellow is night, saved by the fright of losing our eyes. Dying is passion, I see the refraction, light bouncing off of glittering hills. Thrill is the cheapest when you see my creases, folding on out from the personal draw.